What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel for episode 2 of our castle series. In episode 1, we built and reviewed all 3 versions of the Creator 3-in-1 Medieval Horse Knight Castle, set number 31168. In today's video, we're going to be taking 2 copies of the Horse Knight Castle and combining them into an epic Rebrickable mock done by Wurger Bricks. And this set hasn't even been on the market for 60 days yet, and there are already dozens of incredible Rebrickable mocks uploaded to Rebrickable.com. So if there is a specific Rebrickable Horse Knight Castle build that you would like to see us build and review here on the channel to make a video with, let us know down in the comment section below. I think there's going to be lots of epic castle content surrounding this specific set for months to come, so I am very excited. But before we can get to any building, we need to disassemble all 3 of these sets. So while I'm breaking down the 3 castle builds, I thought I'd share with you all some upgrades that I've made to my Horse Knight and Snake Knight minifigures, and make sure to pay attention because I am going to be creating some lore that is going to follow a nice storyline throughout each and every single episode of our castle series. So starting off with the king, I elected to give him some gold shoulder pads as well as printed arms. These are the arms from the Dungeons & Dragons Paladin CMF, as well as white gloves, and I think the white gloves just look really good and very fitting for a king. Up next, we have the king's 3 daughters who have all excelled in archery throughout their entire lives. One has elected to choose a crossbow, while the other 2 have regular bows, but different colors, of course. I upgraded all 3 of their minifigures with the printed Paladin arms from the Dungeons & Dragons CMF, and unfortunately, the king's daughters like to wander a bit and get themselves into a good amount of trouble, which they will be doing over the next few episodes. Up next, we have our 2 spearmen. No crazy upgrades to them just yet, but I did give them both the printed arms from the Paladin Dungeons & Dragons CMF once again. So I felt like the Horse Knight army was lacking a little muscle, so here are my heavy armor Horse Knights, and I think they look fantastic. First off, I gave them all blue plumes instead of red. The red ones came with the set. I think the blue ones just look so much better. I also gave them each the heavy armor chest plates from the Dungeons & Dragons Paladin CMF. I didn't bother giving them the printed arms because most of their armor covers up their arms, so no need to waste the printed arms there. I also gave this knight the blue cape because he is the senior most knight and he's seen the most battles. This guy, for instance, it's his first day, so he's super excited. He's got the war paint on. He's not going to see any action for a while. And then we have our other member over here who's seen a few things, but still not as experienced as the leader right here. So here is what our Horse Knight army looks like so far. Unfortunately, there are 2 critical members of the royal family that are missing at this time. The king's queen went missing a long time ago as she was trying to help another faction of people and was then captured by an unknown castle faction. The king elected to send his only son as well as a portion of their troops to go find the queen and rescue her. Unfortunately, it's been quite some time since he has heard from his son, and as the days go on, he becomes more weary that he will ever see his queen or his only son ever again. So now we're going to move on to the Snake Knights, and I've elected to keep one of the 3 we currently have exactly the same as he came in the set. However, I have created 2 custom ones to join him in their attack, as we have a crossbow archer here, and he has actually been through some rough battles, and as a result, he did end up losing one of his eyes. And then for our 3rd Snake Knight, I've also elected to give him a black hood, as well as a cool giant axe. He is a little crazy though, and that's why he was one of the ones who volunteered right away to go along with the Scout Snake Knights on this epic but very dangerous mission. Now that I have the 3 castle builds fully disassembled, let me show you how I've broken up all the parts so we can build our Rebrickable castle. Here we have all of our tile, small plate, medium plate, large plate, colored bricks, as well as our light bluish gray brick, all of our arches, and then we have all of our miscellaneous pieces. So as I mentioned earlier, today we are building a Rebrickable mock by Wurger Bricks, and if you have a bunch of sets in your collection, you're wondering if there's other builds or other versions that you can create with the same parts, it's very easy to see if there's any other Rebrickable mocks for that set. Head on over to Rebrickable.com, type in your set number, which in our case today is 31168, the Medieval Horse Knight Castle. It's going to take you to the home page for the set, and then then if you scroll on over to the alternate builds tab, you'll be able to see all of the different designs created by fellow LEGO community members. And as you can see, there's a bunch of really cool designs for the Medieval Horse Knight Castle, and I'm excited to build a bunch of these for future videos here on the channel. We're gonna head on over to the Horse Lord Castle page, which is of course done by Wurger Bricks, requires 2 copies of the set, and consists of 2,350 pieces. If you would like to purchase these instructions for yourself, it's going to cost you $15.99. I do just want to make everyone aware that I did receive these instructions for free, and I'm very grateful to Wurger Bricks, who recently found our channel, sent me a bunch of nice messages over the weekend, and asked if I would build and review this version of the Horse Knight Castle designed by him, and in exchange he gave me the instructions. So I'm very grateful for that, but now let's get building. So after approximately 3 hours of building, I am proud to present to you the Horse Lord Castle done by Wurger Bricks, and I'm gonna give you guys a nice 360 spin so you can see what the whole set looks like before we get into all the details and features that it has. Now, the first thing that I want to say is the instructions for this set were very easy to follow and understand. I have done several Rebrickable builds in the past, some of which are already here on the channel, and there are some great Rebrickable builds out there. Unfortunately, if the instructions are hard to follow or not easy to understand with the step-by-step process, it can truly ruin the build experience, but that was not the case here. The instructions were super easy to understand. So that was the first thing that I just wanted to point out, but now let's jump into the build. So starting at the front of the castle, beneath the Horse Knight shield and crest, we have our drawbridge, which does go up and down, which is great. It's a very similar design to that of the actual set, and hey, if it's not broken, don't fix it. We also have a nice tree out front here, as well as on the side of the castle as we rotate it 90 degrees. We're going to keep on coming all the way to the back and focus in on the ground floor of the set. Now, it is an open back. If you have extra parts in your collection, of course you can elect to close it off, but I think it looks fine as is because it allows you to get in there and place your minifigs and have some fun. So starting in the bottom left hand corner, we have the King's throne room here with his big chair off to the left. We also have the nice table with all the food. There is 2 seats on each side of the table. Unfortunately, we run into a similar problem that we had with the official build of this set, where it's a little bit challenging to get a minifigure back there and the other 2 seats. Not impossible, but definitely a challenge. We have the nice chandelier here, and then to the right, you'll see a nice little fireplace. To the right, we have a nice little pathway where you can see all the way through into the courtyard, as we have a nice spot for our blacksmith to work. So moving over to the far right, we have this half door, which does swing on the hinge to act as a barrier between where the blacksmith works and our little horse stable area, which does have adequate room for you to fit one of your brick-built horses. And then finally, we have stairs leading up to the second floor. If you do decide to take those stairs up, you'll find the first of 2 bedrooms. Nothing crazy going on here, but you do have a nice bed as well as a candle on a nightstand. Coming on over to our left, we have a big empty room for the most part, with the exception of another large seat where you'd expect to see the king. We do have that nice chandelier again, as well as the banners on the wall, but other than that, that's pretty much it. Coming up to the top floor, we have our second and final bedroom, which is presumably the king's bedroom, where here we have the treasure chest with all the jewels and gold coins, as well as the nice side table there with the ink pen and paper for the king to write on. So now that you guys have seen the exterior of the castle and the interior of the back portion, I'm now going to spin the castle around and open this all the way up carefully via the hinge bricks, so you guys can see all of the fun details and architecture style that was used to build the interior of the castle. So I'd like to briefly look at the 2 towers here that make up the tallest portion of the Horse Lord Castle. I think this tower especially looks fantastic, especially with the use of the dark blue bricks, complemented by the royal blue flags. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to put a minifigure on that tower. However, there are a few studs at the top of the second tallest tower where you can place one of your minifigures. Beneath the two tallest towers, we have a very spacious terrace right outside the king's bedroom. Plenty of space for him to stand or sit out there and see what is going on in all parts of his castle. Coming on down to the bottom floor, we have our horse stable area with the half door that can swing open and close. Unfortunately, there's not enough room for us to pull our horse all the way through like we could with the official set. Then we have our pathway, which leads us to where the blacksmith works, as well as the main door, which if you open it, you can see into the Great Hall where the king and presumably his knights would be enjoying a nice meal together. And before we move on to the next portion of the castle, I just want to point out that I think the designer did a great job utilizing all of the window pieces that came in both sets. In case you guys didn't notice, every single room has windows that look into either the courtyard or out into the front of the castle, and I think it looks great. So now I'm going to rotate the castle 90 degrees. So you guys can get a full view of the inside of the front portion of the castle, and this is really where our imagination could take over. So this front portion of the castle is truly amazing, and it may seem like there's not much going on. There's no crazy details, there's no fun features to point out. We simply have a structure that is supported by great arches such as this. We have stairs running up both sides to the second and third floor, but my favorite part about all of this is all the open studs, especially up here on the front wall, which will allow us to fortify our castle and have so much fun placing all of our extra horse knights so they're ready for any enemy or friend that happens to roll up to the drawbridge. So now with our minifigures placed, I can close the castle back up, click it in with the hinge bricks, and now we have a fully fortified horse knight castle. The last thing that this set has is this little mid barrier as a side build, which is very similar to the mid barrier that we see in the jousting alternate build for the official horse knight castle set. This could act as a little joust area if you want to have your horse knight on the horse going up against the snake knight on his horse, or it could also act as a little barrier for perhaps where the battle between the horse knights and the snake knights is going to begin. So now that you guys have seen the Horse Lord Castle by Wurger Bricks, what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments section below. Overall, I think he did a fantastic job, and if you have multiple copies of this set, highly recommend you look into building this version at some point in the future. It not only looks good as a display set from far away, it also serves the purpose of being an incredible play scale set because you can open it up, because there's so many spots to place your minifigures and opportunities to create fun little stories as your horse knights go up against the snake knights, or maybe they team up with the snake knights and go after another faction. There's just so much opportunity for play and fun with this version of the Horse Knight Castle, and I absolutely love it. Now, I got one more question for you guys before you depart our channel for today. Which faction do you think captured the Horse Knight Queen? As promised, I will be giving you guys nuggets of that storyline as we progress throughout our castle series, but it's going to be a lot of fun because we have some epic castle content planned for this channel, so you guys are not going to want to miss any of that. So make sure you subscribe because we would love to have you join our Slapshotbricks family, and we got a lot of big things here for the rest of 2025. So with that being said, don't stop shooting until you score, and we'll see you all very soon.